I am your host, Sherry Ricard, and you are listening to Real Girl Talk Podcast Radio. Each week, join me for powerful messages and conversations that will leave you feeling inspired and ready to let your own light shine. Now, let's get started. Welcome back to Real Girl Talk. I am your host, Sherry Ricard, and I'm excited to have you tune in today because I have got the skinny for you. Actually, it's the Skinny Confidential for you. Hey, Lauryn, how are you doing today?
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. You know, I know that you have turned your passion for beauty and wellness into the most distinctive online blog there is in the world today. I mean, I know you have so many followers, and I know that I was attracted to you because of everything that you do. And I love the fact, even though, you know, we talked about this for at the beginning of the show, I'm a little more censored, but when I'm on the air, and I'm more censored like you are when I'm off the air. And so we can talk about a lot of things while we're on the show. But I also want to talk about the fact that you're an author now, and your book, The Skinny Confidential Lifestyle Guide and Body Guide. Tell me a little bit about that, because I know it's a monthly subscription, right?
I have a book that is on Amazon. It's called The Skinny Confidential, and it's basically all my tips and tricks in one book. I wrote it when I was 3 years into blogging, and now I'm 10 years in. So it's definitely something that, like, book 2 needs to be happening soon. And then I also have a body guide that's basically just access to my trainer. We have all of our nutrition hacks and tips. That's an ebook, and it's kind of everything in one.
That's awesome, because I was going to ask you how long it's been since you started, and you said 10 years. But I know one thing that some of my listeners that don't know you yet, that are going to start following you, is that Lauryn is basically an influencer for a lot of top brands. And I think that is so cool. And I want to know how you transitioned from the blog into representing some of these really top tier brands and being an influencer and basically a walking model and advertisement for them. How did that transition happen?
That's actually really interesting, because if I look at my whole brand as a cupcake, the partnerships and collaborations are the sprinkles. So I don't really give that too much energy. When I like a brand and I use it and they come to me to promote them and I'm already promoting them, that feels really good and organic. Or if it's a brand that I'm introduced to and I use for like a month or two and I fall in love with, that's organic too. But I don't put a lot of my energy towards the partnerships. I'm really focused on building my community, building my podcast, building the entities and mediums that I can control, and then eventually launching my own product, which I've been working on for the last 2 years. So
Wow.
The partnerships are important, but I would say if you're out there and you're listening and you want to be a blogger or you are a blogger, I wouldn't give too much energy, because when people ask me, you know, how do you make money? I always tell them the intention is so much more important than how you make money. So to be completely transparent, I didn't make one dime for 3 years. So
Right.
I did it every single day, 7 days a week, and didn't make one dime. And I think that's because my intention was to provide valuable, tangible takeaways that people could provide and use in their own life. And that was the intention. So when the money came, it was like, you know, when the partnerships came, it was organic and authentic. And I worked with brands like, you know, Nordstrom's, who, you know, who doesn't love Nordstrom's? They're an amazing brand. But at the same time, I feel like if you focus too much on the partnerships and the collaborations, it starts to dilute the brand.
Right.
So I feel like I've worked so hard to build this, you know, house of brick as opposed to a house of straw. And if I were to just really put a lot of my energy into the brands and partnerships, it wouldn't be the house of brick that it's sort of, you know, become, and that I hope it continues to be.
Right. And that's one thing that I love about you, because I knew for a fact that you don't just promote a brand. You have to actually use that product before you'll ever consider. If someone sends you, you know, a box of free products, and I get free products all the time, which I think it's very cool, but I never promise that I'm going to show it on Instagram or talk about it on my podcast show because I may not like it. You
I
know,
never promise, and my whole team tries it. I try it. Sometimes my husband tries it if it's skincare. I pay attention to the aesthetic of the product. So, you know, if it's not a aesthetically pleasing bottle like that, I pay attention to that. I pay
right.
attention to the smell, how it feels. I look at ingredients. What I want to be to people is like, I want to weed through the bullshit to show you what like the most amazing thing is and why you need it. And there's products that I've talked, like yesterday I talked about this thing, it's a lip cheat, and basically it makes your lips look bigger. It's Pillow Talk lip gloss. I've never been paid, like I'm probably never going to be paid by them. I just like it, and I've talked about it for the last 2 years, probably a couple times a month. If I like something, and this is a lot of influencers won't put stuff up for free. If I like it and I'm obsessed with it, I put it up. I don't care.
Right.
So
Right.
I think it's also too, like if I like something so much and I continue to promote it, sometimes an organic partnership happens. And I think that goes back to give, ask. Instead of going to the brand and saying, I like this and asking, I like to just give and like show how my audience is excited about it, how I'm excited about it. And if a partnership makes sense, great. And if not, I'm still probably going to talk about it because I like it.
And is that what you do? Like if somebody sends you a product, for instance, and you really like it and you do give and you want to promote it because it works great on you and maybe it would work great on someone, do you just take pictures or you do videos and you hashtag them? Is that what you do as an influencer?
I usually show it in real time on my Instagram stories, what's happening, but I get sent, 90% of the product I get sent never gets shown.
Mm.
And if it does get shown and I give away so much stuff to my audience, I think it's so important that, I'm blessed with all this product, but I can't possibly like display it. And, I want to make sure that I'm giving to the community. So I do like weekly giveaways where I'll show it all in my Instagram story, and one lucky winner will win like $2,000 worth of beauty products.
Right.
Constantly like sending my audience like beauty blenders or foundations to try and getting their feedback. So I just think it's really important to not get wrapped up in the collaborations and partnerships and the free product, because
Right.
I feel like I said earlier, it can dilute the brand.
Make sure I give you my address so you can send me all those products you don't want.
I'm already going to send you a coconut oil lube.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned your husband, and I know you guys have a podcast together. So tell us a little bit about the podcast that you and Michael do together, and how is that working with your husband on a daily basis?
It's interesting. I could write a book about it. I'm telling you, it's for 50% that's great. There's a 50% that's not so great.
Right.
It's like a marriage, but you're in business too. So it's like a whole different layer. We've been podcasting for the last 3 years, once or twice a week. We have 6 episodes a month, and it's definitely deepened our relationship. I think at the end of the day, we're both committed to the same overall goals. And he's my teammate. And I think when you get married, it's really important to sit down and like plan a strategic future and see what you both want. Like, do you both want the same amount of kids? Do you both want to, like, we're so committed to our vision, and we have such a clear vision. So it feels good that we wake up every day working together towards the same vision. It's like, I feel like we're both like hitting a brick wall slowly, like, but surely, and you can't really see how much we're hitting every day. But then as you start to go on and on year after year, you start to see, oh, we're starting to make a hole in the brick wall. And so we're both hitting in the same direction. And I think that really helps. But there are days when I want to like fucking stab him.
That you do.
Like, it's not all rosy posy. He's like, there's so many days where I'm like, you are the most annoying person I've ever met. I'll be like, don't talk to me until 10 a.m. You're driving me nuts. You're raising my cortisol. Or we'll be in bed at 11 p.m. and he'll start asking me about finances. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. I've been working a 16-hour day. I don't think so.
Yeah. Like, and whose brain even works after that? I know.
Starts asking questions about like, I'm just like, how are you even asking me these questions about finances? Like, +2 right now. So, I mean, it's definitely like it's definitely a work in progress. I always say it's like a dance.
Right.
We're learning the dance. It's practice.
Right. Now, did your husband, was he already in broadcasting or media, or is that something that you said, "Hey, listen, I'm doing this and I want you to do it with me"?
So we were drunk in Cabo off ginger margaritas, and I was like, I'm so bored with the blogger space right now. It's not
Yeah.
giving enough. Like the pictures are not enough, the Instagram's not enough. I'm writing my blog, but I feel like I want to mix it up. And I do tend to get bored like that. And we talked earlier, and I said I had kind of a chaotic childhood. So I like to
Yeah.
like be chaotic sometimes. And so I'm
Yeah.
like, what can we do? And so he said, let's start a podcast. And it was interesting because 3 years ago, podcasting was not like big at all. So,
Right.
and I thought, okay, this is an amazing idea because one, it has nothing to do with the way we look, which, how many pictures can I see of myself? I'm bored with it. I need more. I need more. So that was number one. And number two was podcasting is the only medium that there is that saves people time. So Facebook, you're scrolling, you're watching. YouTube, you're watching. Blog, you're reading. Instagram, you're scrolling. Instagram,
Right.
you're watching. Podcasting, you can do while you're getting your nails done.
Right.
You can listen to it while you're cooking in the kitchen. You can drive the kids to school and listen to podcasts. And what's so amazing about that is I feel like I'm respecting my audience's time while educating, entertaining, and inspiring them at the same time. And to me, as a creator, that is, it gives me chills because it's like, that is what it's about. It's like getting the value while they're on the go for the person that's busy, and it's being super respectful of them and their time. So that made a lot of sense. And then, he was not a part of my blog at all. I would go to him for business advice here and there, but he wasn't a part of the creative. And then bringing him into the podcast was like showing the him and her perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that was interesting to like work through. But now we've been doing it for 3 years. And like I said, there's 6 episodes a month, and we've interviewed some really great guests, but we've also, done solo episodes, and we do ask the audience. Like we really try to mix it up. I always say it's like a bag of Chex Mix. You never know what you're going to get.
Right. No, and I do. And I've listened to you guys together, and you're hilarious. And you've actually known each other for a very long time, right?
We've known each other since we were 12. So we dated, and I put this in quotes, like 12 to 15. Then we went to high school together, but we're not dating. And then, I think that I was very aloof to him. This is because I was going for older guys and we were in the same grade. And I think that sort of had him pursue me. So when we were 22, we got back together. And then we took our time. I mean, we were dating for 6 years. We were engaged for 4. Like we took our sweet time. And I think that goes back to what you were saying earlier about, what society tells you what you have to do.
Right.
I can't start a blog because I'm too young. I can't start a blog because I'm too old. I have to be engaged for this amount of time. I have to have this many kids with a white picket fence. Like I'm so against doing what everyone else wants me to do or what society tells me I have to do. I've been like this since I was out of the womb. I don't like when someone tells me what I have to do. I think I can do whatever I want to do. And if that means that, I am engaged for 5 years and everyone's not like, I really, really listen to my gut instinct and intuition and do things how I want. Me and Michael always say, yeah, maybe we live in LA right now, but maybe next year we'll live in the south of France. Like we just don't like to do what people tell us we have to do. And we were talking earlier about, people saying I'm too old to blog. No, you're not.
Right.
That's an excuse that you've made because you're worried about what society thinks.
Right. Are your friends? Or your
husband or your sister.
Right.
Or mom in Colorado. Like I am a huge believer of living life on your own terms and doing you. And I think that I can show up to be the best human that I can be when I'm doing me. And if someone's going to put all these parameters on me, I'm not going to be my best self.
Right. I totally agree with you. And we were talking about this before we came on air, was the excuse that some women do use. And I think the older that we get as women, the more excuses that we use because we are so set in our ways and how we do things. And this is how we've always done it. And I've been married for, 20 years. And this is how I do things on Saturday morning. And it's, I'm not a good mom unless I, go to every single soccer practice and every single game. And oh my gosh, if I miss one, my children think that I'm a horrible mother. And we put this pressure and this stress on ourselves. And then we wonder why at the end of the day, we go, you know what? We do everything for everyone else and we don't do anything for ourselves. It's because you refuse to do anything for yourself.
I think that self-care is not selfish. I think it's one of the most important things you can possibly do. I am such a huge fan of self-care. I don't have kids, so I can't speak for everyone, but I do know when I do have kids that I am, and I know this about me, I know I'm going to make it a point to have time to work out, a point to have self-care, whatever that looks like to me, whether it's getting a facial or getting my brows done or getting a spray tan, whatever that is. Right. That's very important because like you said, I just don't think you can show up to be the best version of you when you don't set time aside for yourself. And if you're a mother and you say, I'm too old to blog, you can set aside an hour a night. Even if you have to wake up an hour earlier or go to bed an hour later and put effort towards something that you've been dreaming about. And I can say this, I feel like, because I was a bartender when I first started blogging. I had $80 in my bank account.
Yeah.
I was bartending from 3 o'clock to 12 o'clock at night, going home, working on the blog for 2 hours until 2 a.m, wake up at probably about 6, teach Pure Barre Pilates, go to school full time, and then go back to the bar, shoot pictures between school and the blog or school and the bar for an hour. And I did that for 3 years, every single day, 7 days a week. I know that there's time in the day for people to put energy towards doing something they love. And even if it's 15 minutes towards writing that book that you've been putting off for the last 15 years, it's those little steps. And we talked about this earlier of banging on the brick. You can't see it all at once. It's not an instant fix, but it's just little movements every day, rinse and repeat, that make the big success, I think.
Right. And you know what? And I think that's great because what you do and what I have tried to do is take the knowledge that you have and make it a little bit easier for someone else. So I told you that I had journaled for 7 years before my first book, Wake Up Call Mother's Grief Journey, had come out. Well, just last year, I had so many people asking me, how did you write the book? How did you get it published? Well, originally I had a publisher, and that we just did not see eye to eye on where I wanted the book to go. So I had to change the book cover, republish it myself, and let go of the traditional publishing, which I had originally, because it was what was best for me and what I wanted to do. But I have people that would come to me, how did you do it? How did you write it? How did you start? So I actually wrote an online course called Writer's Roadmap. It launched last year, and it teaches you, it literally has modules that show you step by step how to create a book cover, how to write your book for free. Everything about the book you can do for free, even publishing it and launching it and marketing. I show you how to do that at no cost. And I did that because I struggled for years to figure it out, and I'm trying to make somebody else's life easier. So now you can go to online courses, you can go on YouTube, you can listen to podcasts. If there is something that you want to know how to do, all you have to do is Google it. And you can find it.
Amazing that you say this, because the theme of my entire childhood was figure it out. Figure it out. You want something? Figure it out. Go figure it out. My parents would say, you want that? You want to go do this? You want to be this? Go figure it out. So figuring it out to me is the theme of 2019. It's so true. We have Google now. If you want to make something happen, you are in charge. Create a strategic future by design. Don't just set goals, set systems to get to the goals. How are you going to do it? And I think what you were saying about your ebook is that is setting systems. It's showing systems of how you're going to get to those goals. I'm just a believer as if you want something bad enough, you're going to find a way to make it happen.
Right. And, and I think a lot of people think they use money and finances as a way not to be able to do what they want to do. And I'm here to tell you, I wanted to turn my book, Strong Women and Wake Up Call, A Mother's Grief Journey, into an Audible book because I love podcasts and I want to be able to listen in my car. And I listen to Audible and audiobooks all of the time. And so I thought, well, why is mine not on it? And I thought, well, I want to hire a narrator. How do I do that? That's going to cost too much money. And I started doing research and I found that there are people that will just take a percentage of the profits of your book and do it absolutely free. Doesn't cost you anything. And so it was easy for me to just hand my book over to a narrator. Reagan Blogs actually is my narrator for my books. And she does that. And when the book makes money on audiobook, she gets a percentage of it, and there were years that I actually took no money from my books. My books were basically a gift to everyone because my son, for 10 years, we had a scholarship foundation, the Bryant Kite Scholarship Foundation, and every book sold, the profits went back into a 5K run, which gained scholarship money, and we gave that away for 10 years. We just actually dissolved it last year because everyone's moved away and it's really kind of hard to have the 5K run now. But so now what I do is I take the profits from the book and I buy more books and I give them away. So, you and I were talking about you're in New York right now and you're from California, and I travel a lot. And one thing that I do is I take one of my books every time I get on an airplane, and I take a book and I put it in the little holder for the seat that's in front of me and with a little note, and I leave the plane. And that's just something that I do, or I'll leave a couple in the airport and I just pray that it falls into the hands of the woman that needs it the most, and that's what I do. That's what I do. Yeah. And I love what you do because you actually take things that you've learned and you figured it out, just like a lot of women don't know how to figure it out. You make it easy because you teach them. You can go onto your website and you teach people how to do things that you've already figured out.
Yeah, I hope that people look at it like they look at what you do as a grief resource. I hope they look at the Skinny Confidential as a resource for beauty, wellness, and health. But when I say health, I mean just like taking care of yourself and self-care.
Right.
We really try to do sort of a trifecta. We bring on an expert on our podcast, everyone from Dr. Dennis Gross skincare to Tony Robbins, to people like Gary Vee, and we bring on the expert, and then Michael and I share our own thoughts, and then we involve the community and engage them. And I think that trifecta has worked really well because it's like everyone wins.
Right.
And that's so important to have. It's not just a win-win when you're podcasting for the guest and the host. It needs to be a win for the audience. And Michael and I always put the audience first. And sometimes that makes the guest uncomfortable. And sometimes it makes us uncomfortable. But it's like if you have that in mind and you know where you're going with that, and you're doing it together, it's very easy.
Right. And what would you, if you could give one big tip, something that it took you a while to discover and you figured it out about starting a blog, what would it be?
I mean, to go macro, it would be figure it out. Anything, we already talked about this, anything that you put your mind to, you can do. But to go micro, I would say if you're going to start a blog right now in 2019, you need to have a unique perspective. It's not too saturated. That's another excuse that I'm hearing. That's the latest excuse. Is
right.
Too saturated. What an excuse. If that's an excuse of yours, throw it in the trash. It's not too saturated. You're dealing with the world. Provide valuable content with takeaways to the person. I don't look at my blog as for me. I think of it as how am I providing tangible takeaways? And then I would say make sure you're well researched, but also implement your own story and your own journey. Everything I say isn't like, go be your own guru. Go out and be your own researcher. This is my journey, my experience, me talking about my boob job, me talking about bleaching my hair, whatever it is I'm talking about. This is my experience.
Right.
Definitely do your own research. And as a blogger, do your own research. Don't just, Google and Wikipedia something and copy and paste it. Like really become a practitioner of what you're doing. So I'll give you an example. If I'm talking about drugstore eyelashes, I'm going to try 40 drugstore eyelashes. Then I'm going to narrow it down to 10. Then I'm going to try all those again. Then I'm going to narrow it down to 5. Then I'm going to try those 5 again. Then I'm going to see what lash goes with the right glue. Like, does it need to be black glue or white glue? Then I'm going to find out how to apply the final lash that I pick. Then I'm going to go back to the blog and I'm going to explain to you why this lash is the lash, why it opens up your eyes instead of droops your eyes, why it gives you a flirty like finish as opposed to like more of a snuffleupagus look.
Right.
I'm really going to give you those real specifics. I think specifics are so important. I see that lacking on certain blog posts. Like they don't go into this like incredible detail. And I want the detail. Like I don't want to hear that Jennifer Aniston drinks smart water. I want to know what's in Jennifer Aniston's makeup bag that she's used 1,800 times that's collecting dust.
Right.
Like I think those details are really important. And again, it's going micro as opposed to just macro.
And I love that too, because I know, 20 years ago, getting your brows done and, laser treatments and lip fillers and Botox and all that, we just didn't talk about it. And actually a lot of women didn't even get that 20 years ago, but now it is so prevalent. You see it everywhere that women that are now in their 40s and 50s that want to have that done, they still aren't talking about it because we weren't raised up in that generation that the 30-year-olds are, where they're already doing these things, and the only reason why I haven't done any lip fillers is because, I'm a nurse and I can give you an injection, but I just don't want to take it. That's just,
that makes sense.
And it's true. I don't do bedside nursing. One thing that I would love to do, and I actually talked to somebody about this the other day, is to be trained on how to go to just a training program for just nurses and learn how to do Botox and learn how to do fillers. And once you learn the techniques, they were like, Sherry, you'll want to do it to yourself. You will actually do it yourself. And I thought, oh my gosh. And I'm thinking, why not? Why wouldn't I do that? I can do whatever I want to do. I'm 53 years old,
That's exactly true. It's like, and it's going back to what society told you when you were, younger. You're not supposed to discuss this. It's taboo.
Right.
Hush, hush secret. No, I hope if I could die and be known as something, it's someone that is going into things with a non-judgmental perspective, showing the pros and cons, and having no taboo. Like I want to talk about birth control. I want to talk about suicide.
Right.
We interviewed Alice Little, who's a legal sex worker. She's the highest earning legal sex worker in the world. We went to the Bunny Ranch and interviewed her, and we got to look at her life from a different perspective. I just think like this judgment thing, like it's outdated. It's not cool anymore to be so judgmental. Everyone's on their own journey and everyone should do them, whatever that looks like. And that includes filler, Botox, plastic surgery, whatever that is.
Right.
So I think that like my platform can get rid of like all these taboos like you're talking about. The lip filler, the Botox, all of it. I've talked about all of it, and I'm going to continue to do so.
Oh, I'm glad that you do. And I know that sometimes I get that too. I walk in a room and they're like, oh my gosh, there's Sherry. I'm known as the grieving mom, or, the certified grief coach, or, and I have this label over my head. And for the longest time, I would tell people, I don't want that label. I want to be known as the woman of empowerment. And then I just accepted it. I thought, this has happened to me. I've lost my son. I can talk about it, and I can empower women through that, no matter what their adversity is, whether it be divorce or the loss by a suicide and not, or an accident or whatever it is. I can talk about any type of grief. And this is my purpose, and this is what I do. And you were talking about, starting a blog or a podcast. It needs to be something different. People aren't talking about it, because if you start talking about grief, they're just like, I don't want to talk about it, because they get upset. But then they learn how to not deal with it. And when you don't deal with grief, you cannot heal from grief. And if you don't heal from grief, it destroys you physically, mentally, and spiritually.
You're
So
right. You are talking about something that's taboo. Grief is taboo. That's really unfortunate and really sad that it is taboo, but it is something that is a taboo. And I totally applaud you for talking about it,
thank you.
for creating a community around it, because it's something that people brush under the rug, unfortunately.
Yeah, and you have to start to heal, because if you don't, it will get to you physically, and anything that attacks you mentally and physically starts to wear on you, not just on the inside but on the outside.
I
you
agree.
know and then you require a lot of Botox and fillers, right? Because you destroy yourself. You look like you're 10 years older when you don't start to heal from all of the grief that you go through.
Very.
Well, Lauryn, I appreciate you so much. I appreciate everything that you do, and it was such a pleasure for you to join me on Real Girl Talk. I love you, girl. I think you're absolutely gorgeous. I know you probably have to deal with haters and the fun and all of those things, but you know what? Sometimes it's just the life of a woman, which is really kind of sad. I am about women empowerment, and I think women should support one another, and I feel like you supported me by coming on the show, and I applaud you, and I appreciate that from you very
Thank
much.
you so much. And I just think if there's anyone out there and they're listening, what I hope they take from this is not everyone's going to like you in life.
Right.
If you want to put yourself out there on the internet, it's just like life. Not everyone's going to like you. I'm not for everyone. You're not for everyone. And that's okay.
That's okay.
You
Exactly.
embrace that, and you'll feel liberated to do whatever it is that you really want to do.
I agree. Now tell everybody where we can find you and how we can follow you.
Yeah, you can follow me at The Skinny Confidential, and then the blog's theskinnyconfidential.com, and then the podcast is The Skinny Confidential, him and her. Thank you for having me on. That was really, really fun.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Thank you, Lauryn. And guys, I just want to remind you, just in the conversation that Lauryn and I had today, make sure that you step out of your comfort zone, keep your faith in God, and know that you can shine and be your authentic self, not a copycat of somebody that you want to be, but really embrace yourself and who you are, because we were all born on purpose for a purpose. And I hope you guys have a blessed week.